Hi, part two. I did have to do something. It was sneeze a lot and blow my nose, and I just didn't want that embarrassment on camera. I mean, it's bad enough I'm yawning on y'all and playing with my beard, but that shows you how comfortable I am with you guys. Come on. Um, and, I'm at that point in my life, that magic point as of years ago, the I don't give a fuck portion of my life. And that's probably where I'll remain until that life shovels off this coil. So it's a hard one to get to sometimes for sensitive people. Um, Sometimes it's all too easy to get to for cynical people, and you know they don't have as much uh, experience with. I don't want to say innocence or naivety per se, but kinder, gentler uh, emotions become hardened at a young age, jaded beyond repair, and it took many years for me to get to that point, and I'm still not beyond repair. Balance is what I've been seeking. The dark and the light, balance between that kind of cynicism that will keep you alive, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, financially, moving through this world and enacting the freedoms that you can that are still allowed with our temporal bodies, but also that will remain in our minds unless we surrender them to programming, from without. That was heavy. Um, I yes. So me recovery. Um, I thought very difficultly. I thought very hardly. No, that's not what I meant either. Uh, I thought very deeply. There you go. I thought very deeply about the scenario that I stumbled into the last few days and what I did about it 2 days ago and the possible repercussions of that involving other people, which another person which have not manifested as of yet and probably will not. And the repercussions on me, what it means to me. What did I give away something of myself? Did I relent a position of strength? No, I think I tried to reclaim a position of strength because a relationship is weird, in the sense that I always thought this, and it was voiced by my ex, and she said, there's three areas, there's three like people that need to be taken care of and given care in a relationship. There's like me, there's like you, and then there's like the us, and it's like the third mind, as Burroughs and Dyson called it, and totally true. And the third mind in our case died. It was kind of snuffed by, you know, her side of things, and I can't resurrect it on my own. And it wouldn't be what it was on my own. That'd be foolish. So, the lack of communication and the lack of acknowledgement, or even, hey, it's okay, or are you okay, or even, hey, you're a person too. One time we were really close, right? None of that. The coldest, um, most comprehensive ghosting I've ever endured from the person who, wow, I would have never, ever expected it. And regardless of how much of it is my fault, I have nonetheless tried to make my karma right with this person. And what I did a few days ago perhaps was ill advised and maybe didn't come out quite the way I wanted it to, but then I thought, I've said all this to her in other ways over the months. And the more I learn about myself, the more I realize about our situation in the past, the more regrets I have, the more I want to apologize for. But also, the more I realize mistakes were made on her end, things that make me angry sometimes, things that frustrate me and sadden me, and I think, wow, can't two people just reach out? Instead of, you don't know what someone thinks of you. You don't know if they're afraid of you. Why are they afraid of you? Is that informed by some past arguments or disagreements? A show of temper? Are they afraid of you because you might they might stifle your freedom? Uh, what other reasons? Are they afraid because they currently have a significant other and don't want reminders of others? Though that was contradicted by some things I learned too. So it's basically someone passive aggressively, because I'm letting them, because I'm observing their world, even though it's their public persona, and I'm noting, because I know their body language and their where they're coming from, their overall gestalt, and I'm noting that you know there are people who have mistreated this person, and those people have been forgiven. Some of the mistreatment's been heinous in my eyes. Um, but our misunderstanding and misunderstandings, uh, and the small amount of harsh words exchanged between us, mostly her to me, but a couple of times me to her, harsh tones especially, um, they have made forgiveness impossible. So what I did the other day was try to encapsulate all this in a video and say, hey, I still haven't received forgiveness, and I can't. I can't expect it. I don't, but I don't understand why it can't be given. If someone could tell me I don't forgive you because X, Y, Z, but as always, we're left holding the bag, and what did I do, and what did I do, and blame myself, and your mind goes through this track over and over. It's been a recurrent problem throughout my life, but the last few years it was strongly, if not totally resolved. It had been rethought and uh, dealt with to where those things were not creeping into my life. I mean, I wasn't letting them overwhelm me when I had an issue. Um, there was a girl that I dated briefly that I met on the internet who meant a lot to me. Um, and she did something pretty horrible to me, which by her own admission later was all her, not me, that I was being cool. And I was being cool. And she hurt me out of her own fear and her own striking back for people who had hurt her before. And it took a while for me to, get upset with her. Then it took me a while for me to forgive her. And then there was peace. And then as soon as there was peace, I found Kelly. And the stars align at times. And my point is that it didn't deter me. I mean, it slowed me down, but it didn't stop me. It didn't force me into the kind of state I've been in with this. Possibly I'm because I didn't love that person nearly as much as I do my current ex. Possibly I was stronger then. I'm not sure. I was pretty strong when I met my fiance. So, but not as strong as I thought I was, and I think there was a lot of second guessing of each other that went down because of wanting to prove things would not be the way they had been for us in a bad sense. And I think we already knew the chances of that were slim. So in a way, we created those traps, and it all seems real obvious to me down to exact conversations. And it's the kind of thing that if you could say, "Hey, can we talk out what happened?" and the person will be like, "Yeah, let's talk out what happened." I mean, on the phone, video chat, get some coffee if we're geographically compatible here, or the old ways uh, could find peace in these scenarios. Um, that's all dead in this age of ghosting. And in this age, you retcon your life, the events in your life as surely as if you're a comic book writer or television movie writer. You decide that this didn't really happen, or that it happened to your empirical body, but it had no impact here, and so therefore is not of consequence to continued pondering. And you begin to see people editing out friends, family members, and of course, intimate lovers in record numbers now, using the internet as their weapon, though there are other ways to go about it as well. But primarily online is what gives you the ability to put it into effect, and put it into effect quickly and decisively and rather cruelly, abruptly. Now, if you lived in the same city as that person, then you're in the position of, do I go and try to talk to them? I've exhausted all this. Well, I had that choice one time with my previous girlfriend to my fiance, and um, I decided not to visit her while I was in her city. I decided that I did not want to be humiliated, that I wanted to rise above the fray. Uh, just as I decided to let my ex-wife go and she wanted to go and live some new life, odd life away from me, and letting go of my soulmate, who I felt was my true soulmate, letting go of her was far more difficult because I had never loved a human to that extent, and I've loved fiercely and with fury for most of my life various people and animals and family, not too many family members, but a couple. Um, and yeah, I have not experienced that. And to suddenly lose it on the cusp of putting it into making it your life, making it your milieu, your everything, your home, your your solace, your emotional, your creative stimulation, your greatest intimacy, healings of your greatest wounds. To suddenly have that taken away, and not just what they've done for you taken away, or the situation, taken away the ability to help them, to do wonderful things for them, to show the love that they have longed for and that you wish to give them, because you feel bad. You feel bad that the person you love that much has ever hurt, or that someone's ever hurt that person. It can make you sad, to a yeah. And so this process has been going on about a year and a half, with only two significant bumps in the story, or I don't even call them developments, but one I guess was, and then this thing that happened this week, just becoming aware of certain things, um, snapped me out of certain things, pushed me into a real funk in other ways, and it nudged me over the edge, kind of into an old kind of depression I used to have. And that, with the nervousness I'd been having with some health issues and some, frustrations with my job and money, and I was like, I'm cracking up, and I mean, I don't even know if I'm lucid now. I feel as though I am. You can tell me in the comments if I'm lucid or not. Like, dude, you're lucid, or dude, give it up. And once again, I'm not high or intoxicated. My brain just works this way. Um, all of this has been a bit much to bear. So I've tried to lose myself in the things I usually do when these things become a problem. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. This woman is going off on Bill Gunn's character here. It's really a matter of what will give me a feeling of calm, of self-care, of hope. Hope has been one of the most elusive emotions I've ever experienced. It really is. It was a special feeling for me because it wasn't one that I kept with me throughout my life. It wasn't one that I was really shown how to reach for. It wasn't one that life gave me any reason to reach for many times. There were many exceptions. Well, a decent amount. Being on medication helped me find hope again, and a number of other things made me hopeful. Once I kind of started deprogramming myself and going into the recovery program I've been in for a few years, and embracing new habits and abandoning old things that weren't working, trying to heal old wounds. Then I did feel hope intermittently, and I got to finally where the hope was part of my vocabulary. I mean, there was still cynicism and skepticism, and I had hope when I met the woman I wanted to marry last year, and she had trouble with holding on to hope as well. Yes, it's just a matter of, it's not like in a story. It's not like in a movie. It's not like in Flicker Street, say. There's not going to be a scene where the ex-lover says, wait, come back. It doesn't happen in real life. If it does, well, I have seen it, but it's very rare. There's not the scene where, say in my current scenario, a person is going to call me and filled with compassion say, I'm sorry for what I've done, and this is how I felt. We don't have to suffer like this anymore. We can talk this out and either mend fences or go our separate ways forevermore. I have not been given any of those options, and in trying to somehow petition for them, I've just made matters worse, and I've made myself lose some self-respect over it. So now it's a matter of that person's boundaries are their boundaries, and mine are mine again. Is there a part of me that hopes before the end of the year I'll get a response to that video of some kind of closure or whatever, or that there will be a break in them and a compassion will well up and a remembrance of the closeness that was shared, the tenderness that was shared. Yeah, I'd like that. I mean, but I don't think it's going to happen. I am almost to the point where I can say it's not going to happen. But I'm open to it until the 31st. After that, I'm closing the book. And however much that pushes me into a new area of and a new era of trying to heal and trying some different things, so be it. I was that way at the beginning of 2016. I can be that way 5 years later, at the beginning of 2011. and I can reclaim my recovery. However, recovery as the kind I've been part of the last few years is suffering because of this COVID thing. You know, all medical help is, and of course, we're not getting any stimulus checks anymore. We're not getting Medicare for all. We're not getting any government mandated assistance to help with these things, like our health and our doctor's bills and the time we missed work and how can we hold on to our homes. But the big hit hasn't come yet. For 2021, it is, and it is coming. And this is not a end of the world is nigh, sign that I'm hanging on myself, walking around outside of, a restaurant. This is real, man. And this isn't the kind of video where I want to say, hey, baby, listen, wake up, y'all. It's not. The time is not for that now. Though I have hinted many times that I wish for that. I do. That's the last residue of my investment in politics, that, progressive politics, especially, really only, that you're hoping the masses awake ere it doth be too late. So I shan't be a doomsayer per se in this, but research is easy to do right now. I mean, yes, censorship is creeping insidiously back into all the strands of our lives, just as it was in the 1980s during the Reagan era. We've come full circle, except now Democrats censor us the worst and want war more than the Republicans. Republicans are just lunatics. But these same issues that I was fighting against, complaining about, writing against in my Flickr Street early stories, they've come full circle, and the people promulgating them may seem different in some ways on the surface, but they're not different. They're the same beasts. And all I can really say is I know what they're doing is wrong, and I'm not alone. And that's one beautiful thing about the internet, is it brought us together and made us go, wow, we're not all so alone and freakish as we thought. There's a couple other people, not just a couple other weird people in my town that I see at the local diner. I mean, there's like some people that I speak to who have all kinds of different jobs, live all over the world, they get it. They're yearning for these same things. They don't fit in anywhere, but then they're realizing there's becoming enough of us to where we can overturn the old ways of fitting in. And the old ways are dying, but the people who gain from them are going to fight tooth and nail all the way to the death, not to relinquish their grip on the earth and its resources and its money. It's heavy. Something I used to speak to my ex about quite a lot. Some of the things I just said are almost paraphrases of things she said to me as well as me to her. And that's in Flickr Street. The themes of that are becoming ever present in Flickr Street. Flickr Street was always going to head into kind of a societal breakdown, apocalypse of sorts in the 21st century. I never dreamt that, this life we're in would catch up with and maybe surpass some of the things that have happened in Flickr Street based on the timelines. I mean, I'm in 2012 in Flickr Street. 2012, 2013, that's when my current story arc takes place. We're in 2020. So if I continue to go along and map forward towards 2020, as insane as our 2020 has been, their 2020 may indeed be the end. But I wouldn't say it's the end as in the entire world blows up and all my characters are killed, but a lot of people would die. the way of life that we've had, we Western worlders, would finally end. And then you're in the genuine post-apocalyptic setting. I'm excited about writing towards it. I'm dreadful of seeing how much real life competes with and surpasses my ideas. Have I been prescient in some of my ideas? Yes. Have I been prescient to the level of so many great speculative fiction and science fiction writers over the last 200 years? No. They've been prophets, and we ignored them. We heard a lot of it back when I was a child, and the 70s, there was all the ways the world is dying and all the injustices done to your fellow man and woman. And there were cries, there were songs, there were Hollywood movies, the new Hollywood. There were books, there were marches, riots, activism, people who tried to vote with the ballot, some of whom tried to vote with the bullet. And we became assimilated. I mean, I wasn't really part of that, but I felt kindred with it once I realized what it was. By the time I realized what it was and was older and slightly more in tune, though still naive in many, many ways, I began to idolize that. I began to idolize that idealism of the late 1960s, late 1970s, that period in time, and my mind kind of formed it into a chrysalis of this is a prescription for something, for consciousness shifting, for Earth, and we just kind of take the chrysalis and we discard it, and it shattered like glass, and everyone became out for everyone's self again, and that is, it's more than a tragedy. It's yeah, that's all I'll say. It's vast, and now there are some who want to return to those times, who will reverse the cynicism, who want to build on what now, and who are saying, God, it's even worse now. You really need to listen to what's going to happen. But a lot of the prophets are no longer with us, those prophets. The prophets in our current creative venues are not so prophetic anymore. They're just mainly talking about now. They're reflecting now, because now we're here almost on the cusp of everything we were warned about, and a lot of it has ensued. And so, were you going to be a prophet? What is the next step? Nothingness. The world blows up. Humanity's wiped out for good. We are all slaves under this tyrannical system for the rest of existence. All these scenarios, which were things that the prophets were saying, the sci-fi prophets were saying, if you don't fix this in time, then this will lead to this, will lead to that. Well, now we've done the things in real life, by and large, that have led to those things. So all the modern prophets, if there are any, they're not prophets. They're reporters, and they're just commenting as journalists on how things are going. It's just they're reflecting it through art and taking one detached step away from it. But it's the same thing. So the only prophets we could have now in the arts are prophets of utter destruction, nihilism, annihilation. And there are some like that. There have been some for a number of years. I believe a lot of the nihilistic artwork that has come out in the last 30 some years, I mean, it came to rise in the Reagan era, and for very good reason, and as we lunged forward into the complacent years of the Clinton era, it just became more powerful, harder to hold back. But the governments are shrewd, and corporations are very shrewd. The ones that own the governments, they knew ways to nullify all this. And it didn't happen all at once, but in time, as these dangerous ideas began to float into the mainstream, they found ways here and there to always dilute them or co-opt them to where they didn't have the power, where they weren't teaching the real truth. The truth tellers were sold out, and the people were sold out. Um, and they blamed the truth tellers, but it was not the truth tellers who did this. We were all victims. And so here we are. Well, I've waxed philosophical for a while. Hope I haven't been too downbeat, but talking about the world's problems, I guess, helps me deal with my own in some ways. Maybe get away from my own for a while and get some perspective. The next days are going to be fairly rough for me, but I'm going to try to keep up with the arts. I'm going to try to keep up with personal problems, the movie, and I'm going to hit the chapter 2 hour and a half one, and I will try to create. I did do some Flickr Street work today. I was happy with. It wasn't made from whole cloth, but it's stuff I've been building for a while, and it's stuff that is really soon going to make its way onto the official website in the form I want it. And then it's also a springboard for a new series that I'll be serializing on my pages, which will eventually be collected onto the website as well. I have enough material in the one I'm finishing up to post on the website. I've been counting the words as I've been pasting the documents into one whole document to place onto the website, which I talked about some of this the other day in another video. This is my progress report of sorts. So as I've done this, there are springboards for the next parallel kind of thing, which is going to be like a novella or a novel even of sorts, an unconventional novel. It will be like a history of the world kind of thing, but it will have flavors to it and nuance and a lot of emotion, and a lot of parallels with our world, that analogical mirror I'm still staring through, and I'm still perceiving the world through it, and taking what I see and bringing it to the other side, and making it Flickr Street, manifesting it. And it's what magic is, right? And the work itself that I'm going to next collect, I keep talking about the treatments. I have 2 more to transpose over there through cut and paste. I've done all the writing on everything. But before those, my word count is almost 60,000. And these 2 chapters are fairly lengthy. These last 2, they're not the lengthiest of some I've put in. I've edited in there today. Some of them are staggeringly long, and I totally forgot. But they are broken into subchapters. I do put double space between my paragraphs too, so not to hurt your eyes. So I'm looking at a work that's probably going to be about 70,000 words, I would say. It could be slightly less. It could be a little bit more. And that's going to be my online novella Bible, like my continuity Bible, my conceptual Bible. But it won't have the depth of the companion piece. The companion piece will be like the real deal, the meat of the matter. And then it's up to me whether I want to break that Bible into stories, short stories, comic book stories for anthologies, self-published comic books. I don't know. Novels. I don't know. I'd like to keep illustrations of a lively part of it, or maybe I could sell it and have a TV series on cable that would, tell the story at length, at leisure. I'd still have to truncate it quite a bit to even be as complicated as those shows can be. It's way beyond that. Um, but I could do that as long as I was the one who could do it. I would take some advice here and there, perhaps, but I would like to encapsulate my own story and find the beats where I can go. Here's where I can kind of crunch this, and I can discard this for now or downplay this, and the bullet points of the events of this world I've created, and I could put them into a few seasons in a television series. Now, I don't believe any of that will ever happen, but it is a hope of mine. I don't know if I can call it an ambition because I don't really have enough in place to make it a viable ambition, much less a viable proposition. Um, but when I do, I'll let everyone know. So anyway, I'm going to continue plugging on. Thank you for this. I'm not as down as I was. Things don't seem quite as bleak. I'm going to try to find things to fill my mind with and to tear me from certain pains. And I love you guys. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.